Hello, guys, and welcome to Tujijenge na Sotika series. My name is Denise Brian. I'll be your host for today. And today we're talking about benefits of financial planning. And Kamakawa, I'm just going to use my normal Big Five illustration. And today we're going to be talking about the elephant. And the most interesting is there's a saying that goes that the elephant never forgets. And the good thing about the elephant is the elephant uses its knowledge backed up by its memory to make up decisions for its future. Given the increase in urbanization and decrease in spaces where they can feed and they can be able to live their lives. They've been able to use, what they see and what they experience. When you watch these documentaries, you see like, for example, if there's an area where like elephants have conflicts with humans, they will tend to not want to pass by there, and you'll be able to use another route to be able to just ensure that they succeed and they thrive as a species. And an aspect that we'll use here is the journey of the elephant. The elephant never forgets. If you watch those documentaries, you'll see that at times you'll find that they'll stop somewhere and they'll start crying, and the commentator will tell you that one of the family members passed away in this place, and they congregated and they cried over that. And they always know where to go, and they travel kilometers and kilometers, to see how they can be able to best survive the new demographics given the level of urbanization in their habitats. And the same trait we're going to use in our financial planning journey. You see, along the way, you learn a lot. You gather a lot of knowledge, you gather a lot of information, and that helps you to be able to create the goals you need, helps you to know your values, helps you to know like where you need to go, where you need to be at a particular point in time. And that trait is what is going to be able to help us to understand the benefits of financial planning. So when you're talking about financial planning, we have three pillars that revolve around that in our financial planning journey. And these pillars will be shown, I will do an illustration of a cyclical diagram. And these pillars include, accumulation, then distribution, then conservation for growth. So what you will know that in our financial planning journey, and when you're looking at your financial situation and where you're at, you will know that you accumulate finances through either your income streams, be it employment, be it business. So you'll always be accumulating resources at one point in time. And as you continue in this financial planning journey, once you accumulate, you distribute. So this distribution is basically based on your goals and your dreams and your values and what you hope to achieve. So this distribution will go either towards your savings plan. As you progress, you will have many needs and wants that you will have. So based on the prioritization that you have set up for yourself, you'll be distributing your resources towards that. And then during distribution, you have the conservation for growth. As you're distributing this, you're conserving this money somewhere for a growth, be it conserving it for maybe to achieve a certain goal, a certain dream, or to achieve something that you really hope for. And an example is conservation, maybe for example, for your emergency fund. You will distribute some of your money to go towards your emergency fund. And when that emergency fund has grown and has reached its level, you'll also decide now again to start the accumulation again. Your emergency fund will change basically on how your life improves and how your income also improves. Because let's say if you get a job raise, then your nest egg will definitely have to increase, and you'll have to go through this process again. And so these three pillars basically are what we experience during our financial planning journey, and they give us a guide on this cyclical nature of the planning bit, whereby you accumulate, you distribute, you conserve, and then you begin accumulating. And this is basically the best way we can be able to see how these pillars play out in the financial planning process or journey is when we have a bird's eye view of the human life cycle. And so the human life cycle is a very interesting I'm going to use tables to illustrate that. Let me just finish here. But the human life cycle is basically showing the different stages of development that we go through as humans in our different spaces. And we're going to start by a stage we call the foundation. So the foundation. So the foundation has three tabs, and we're going to start with the first tab, which is birth. 1 to 7 years. So when you look at the foundation of the human life cycle, this is where it all starts. It starts at we get born, and we have that nice experience where you're growing and you're becoming this grown-up child. You're asking a lot of questions. And funniest thing, something very interesting that happens during this part is this is where, like, for example, if you are privileged enough to be brought up in a family that, or your parents were financially literate, and involved you in their financial decisions. This is the time they start doing so. This is the time where you start asking questions like, why can't I have this sweet, or why can't I have this, or why can't I have this? And if your parents were financially literate, like my mom, for example, during this time is when we were told, you can't just have anything you want. You have to prioritize. I remember during this time is when I started having a desire to read, and I used to love reading books. And we used to have a library where I would go pick up a book, and I would go reading. And sometimes I wanted to pick like 3, 4, 5 books. And my mom would be like, no, we don't have money for 3, 4, 5 books. We have money for just one book. So choose the one we want to start reading, and then we can start planning and saving for the other ones. And so if you're a parent and you want to start teaching your children about financial literacy and the concepts of money, this is a very interesting stage to start introducing them to that, because something also very interesting that happens during this stage is that 90% of the human brain develops during this stage. Like, a child who's 7 years old has an adult brain. So what happens is the rest is just developing the 10%, and the 10% is to bring in the connections, to be able to understand different concepts, different terminologies. And so this is the best time where you can be able to instill good values. And like my favorite verse in the Bible, which is Proverbs 22 verse 6, says that train up a child in the way they will grow, and when they grow they will not depart from it. So the kind of values instilled in terms of finances, this is the place you be. If you're a parent and you have a kid and you want them to learn about these things, involve them in things like budgeting for your house. Like when you're making your financial decisions together, involve them. Have them be there where they can talk, they can ask, they can add on to what you're discussing. For example, if you want them, they want to buy, they want to understand why maybe, for example, their cereal should last a month. They don't understand why maybe you keep on making a lot of noise about their cereals ending before the month is over. So this is the best place to invite them into that, and building that nature, that culture of that. And after we move from this stage, we go to the childhood, and this is from 8 years all the way to 21 years old. So in this stage, we have the primary school, secondary school, and college years of a child, or as an individual, if you can go back and look at it. And you will notice that during this time, there was some time your parents would give you some financial independence. Whereby, for example, on Fridays, I'll give you my good example. When I was in primary school, on Fridays I would be given some money to buy my favorite snack, which was maybe fries or mabuyu or kaimati. And I had the leeway to either spend that money, all of it, during that time, or I could save towards buying other things that I loved. We had this lollipop called Chupa Chups when we were young, and it was like 50 bob. And every time we go to the supermarket with my mom would be like, I can't buy this for you. See, I gave you money for your snack. So what happened was I developed that culture of saving. So like out of the 50 bob she used to give me every week, I would set aside the 10 bob And then when we go to the supermarket at the end of the month and you're doing our monthly shopping, I would be like, Mom, I want this potato that I have 40 bob. Would you add me the 10 shillings? And gladly she would be able to do that. So it's a very interesting stage whereby now you move even to high school. Now, when you move to high school, I remember my parents, we used to sit down and used to write a list. So we would budget the things I would need to use at school, and then we would do a list. Then we'd go to the shop, we would go to the supermarket, and she would, we would get everything and tick. And then after she's given me everything, she told me, "So you have everything for school now. Give me like a 500 bob now for miscellaneous and maybe for transport when I'm coming back, and maybe for a lunch or something." And I used to complain because my friends used to have a lot of money and a lot of shopping at the same time, but my mom was preparing me to understand the concepts of budgeting and the concepts of like living within your means. As long as you have what you need, you don't need extra cash to just do whatever it is you want. And that built a culture for me as I was transitioning to university, because this is now where you're given some level of independence, where you choose where you're staying. You have to choose. You are responsible for the kind of food you eat. You're responsible for the places you go to visit and all that. So now, from the culture of saving when I was in high school, I mean the culture of budgeting when I was in high school helped me very, was of much help when I was in campus, because I was able to like, I remember my mom was not the one to give you money just for money's sake. She used to take care of the pennies, because she used to say one penny leads to another penny, and she was very frugal. And it was uncomfortable then. I didn't understand why. But now when I look back and what I've been able to learn from it is, it has allowed me to understand why she was doing that. Because when I was in campus, I mean, you're on a shoestring budget, and all this, there are a lot of wants and needs clamoring for the little money you have in your pocket. So you have to like set aside money. You have to like make decisions for yourself. Like, I remember my mom used to give me money every month. Like, this is your rent, this is your upkeep, do and obviously most of the time it would not meet my needs in campus. There were funkies in campus, there were outings in campus. I mean, that's why you want to impress a girl in campus. So I mean, and the money in your pocket is not enough to do that. So by prioritizing and budgeting, and then realizing that my money is not enough, I was able to get an extra income where I interned at one of the banks near our school. So I complemented whatever my mom was giving me, and it allowed me to now live the life that I wanted to live in campus. And it was good to, so I could budget for my rent, I'd budget for my food, and budget for my transport to and fro to place of work and school. And then I would also like budget for my entertainment. Though it was hard, sometimes, especially when there's a time. It was a reality check, like you remember like the lessons your mom taught you. So one day we went back to school, we got excited and used to love playing pool. And then we went and just started playing pool, and we just started playing. And the place we were playing, it was like hella expensive. When we were looking back and checking our accounts, like, because we were living with my roommate and we had not done shopping and everything, we realized actually we had eaten into our budget for doing such things. And it was a wake up call to like do the right thing. And so this is the places where now you start building that some sort of independence. This is also like where you finish school and starting looking for a job. Now that becomes the most interesting time in our lives, whereby you were so used to some independence in university, and now you don't have it. Maybe you have to go back home, and now you have to turn up to look for work. You have your normal. You have people you need to connect to for credit. You need credit and all that. And if you are not built an additional income on your campus, you become like a burden to your parents. That's the time your parents feel like, I've spent on you, I've already finished paying your university. She's breathing like, so she doesn't want you asking for things like credit and all that. So this is the place where you sort yourself out on such things, yeah. And then we go to the second stage, which is we call it the life planning stage. Yeah, life planning, and so the 1 to 7, 8 to 21. Well, then there's pre-adulthood down here. Sorry, pre-adulthood. and this is 22 to 28 years. So in this is the place where now you start looking for work. This is where maybe you get your first job. You're hella excited. You have to you handle your money. No one is telling you how to spend. Then you have your needs and wants. If you are like me, one of the first things I jumped on was buying the latest phone and the latest clothes. But then I ended up, you know, not really. I went back to my factory setting when I realized I didn't have enough money to last me the month, and I started budgeting again. So it is like I said, financial planning is a continuous journey. It's not all perfect. Sometimes you will forget about the things you've learned. Sometimes you will assume, sometimes your needs will supersede common sense. And the good thing is, like the elephant, remember what you learned. Because when you're like, from this stage, I remembered my life in campus and how I had it structured, and I had to pump in the brakes and start now planning my little salary that I had. And this is the part where you do that, you get to know that, and so don't feel bad about not having money during this side. This is the time where you make all your mistakes. This is why for most of us, like those who have been through the 844 system, for example, we never had like a sitting wherever we talked about money. We always talked about, take this job, this is the job that pays a lot of money, or this is the job that will make you financially secure. But in real sense, no one really taught us, no, what now when you have this money, then what? So I mean, this is the part where you get to do a lot of trial and error. You try this, you overspend, you get your salary the first week, it's over, and you have to struggle like the whole of this is the place where you do all that, and you get to learn from that. So good thing is if you get this at this particular point in time, it's good to have a financial advisor to just work with you and as early as possible so that they can be able to help you now align your goals and your values to whatever income you're earning, and then you can now know where you're at. And we'll come to this second stage of life planning, and the first step would be like now from 28 to 35. This is where you're like, you have a secure job. Here's where you're starting to think about family. You're starting to think of starting a family, and this is a very interesting stage in your life because this is where you now start. By the time you start to think of having a family, you have to start thinking of the educational bit of your children. You have to start thinking about how are you planning the next couple of years, because if you're planning to have kids, you get to know, like in your mind you always know like how many kids you want. So if it's three, if it's four, so you and your partner, like this is the place whereby it's a good place to choose a good partner to work with, because this is where you come together, pull your resources together to be able to build a home. And so it's good to be financially aware of yourself even before you enter into this space where you want to start a family, you know, so that you know where you're going, you know what you're about to do. If you're a young man, this is the place where you start saving for your wedding. You start planning for it, because there's this habit of like we have this African habit where we call each other for weddings and we ask people to contribute for us. And I honestly feel very offended when you put me into a group and then you assign like everyone needs to chuck this amount of money because this is the budget we have. And I always tell my friends, I mean, if you want to call me to your wedding, how much have you set aside? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be you and this partner. You're going to be having a life together. You're going to be planning your finances together. So it's good to be aware of yourself and plan yourself in this area. I find that this is a very interesting stage in lives whereby people do very interesting weddings. People compete whose wedding is the most expensive, most glamorous. And I see a lot of people making unsound financial decisions surrounding that, whereby you spend like 2, 3, 4, 5 million. I mean, if you have it well and good, but if you have to like even take a loan for it and all that, I mean, it's an event. The wedding is an event. The marriage is the journey. So this is a very critical and crucial point in time in life to be able to understand what it is you need to do. This is the planning that sets out your future, right? And so the other tab is 35 to 42 years old, and we say this is the part where promotion comes. you're promoted, yeah, your salary increases a bit. So this is a good time to know, like have a vision of where you want to be in the next couple of years. Are you planning to, because retirement is looking like a couple of years ahead. So this is where you start setting up the foundations. This is where you like make sure you put your pension is in check. You create prepare for your exit in this place, because you'll not work there for forever. This is the place where the extra income that is coming in, assigning it to the most important areas in your life. If you're by this point maybe you have 2 or 3 kids, and they're moving from one level of education to another, and costs are also increasing. So this is a good place to look at that, and just focus on it and align your money towards that, and ensure that it's able to take care of you and your family during as the years go by. And the third tab in this life planning column is from 42 to 50 years. So here is this is self actualization. This is where you're an expert in your area of field. You become a name in your field. Definitely, you've moved up ranks in your area of employment, and this is the time you start thinking of retirement. If you started child rearing at a very early age of 28, you have a child who's almost graduating high school, entering campus. So this is an area you're supposed to start thinking of your life, thinking of the things that make you, how will you exit this life? That do you have you set yourself up to be able to continue to enjoy the kind of life you are living in this place of self-actualization? Because you realize at this point in time, you're a high flyer, you're in a good position, either your business is doing well, or your employment, you're employed and it's doing, you're at a good place. So this is a good place to start looking at, what are my sunset, how do my sunset days look like? What am I planning to do? What am I planning to achieve? Like, what have I set up now that maybe the coop will be empty, like our kids will be going? What will I be doing? What I'll do, what will I be engaged on? And this is the point where most people don't, you know, this is where you should increase like your savings, like things like pension should be put in place. This is also a place where maybe your dreams and your goals are actualizing. Let's say, for example, you wanted to buy a house. This time you own your house. Maybe you wanted to have 3, 4 cars. This is the place where you've achieved that. Your kids are going to good schools. You've set up their education plans and all that. So this is the place whereby all those should be set up, and it guides you on how to move to the next stage of your life in this financial planning process. And then we're gonna do the last column. The last column is for consumption and care. It's called consumption and care. And we start here. So here is from 50 to 63. So here you're a senior citizen. You're planning your year, you've retired, you're asking yourself what next. And this is a very interesting stage of life, and as I observed as a financial advisor, is we find that people who are very well off here, had a lot of disposable income during this stage of their lives, come to struggle here, because what happens here is once you retire, or once you leave the job that you had and the perks and everything, reality sets in and checks in. And sometimes you'll realize the savings you've set up for your pension or for your retirement are not enough to sustain the lifestyle you used to live here. And this is where you find many, especially men, going through depression. You find many men in this place committing a lot of suicide because they are not able to adapt to the changes that happened as a result of where they're at in life. This is a good place to look at. It's having a bird's eye view of where you want to be, like in this 50s to 60. It also gives you an opportunity to know where you're at. At this point, you've retired. You ask yourself, so what next? This is the place whereby you should have known what you want to do. Get to know your goals, get to know your passion and your dreams, and maybe now go towards fulfilling that. And maybe you've set aside money to do that. So it's important that by the time you get into this part, you have been able to set that up. Then we have 63 to 70 years. He's still a senior citizen. And in this spot, I was given advice. I have a very good friend, he's called Engineer Njoroge, and he used to tell me, he tells me that people don't retire, people refire. And I never used to understand what he meant until he introduced me to, he decided to mentor me and walk with me in his journey and what he does. And what he realized is what he had done during this stage of his life is he had found his passion. His passion is in agriculture. He's an engineer, but his passion is in agriculture, in tea, in coffee. And what he did is he now set his retirement towards that, planting coffee, planting tea, and being able to sell it and making a good living for himself during this time. So he enjoys a good life. He always buys me tea. He finds it very interesting that he doesn't want me to buy him tea because he's okay. And I look up to him for that. Like I don't want to retire and just go sit home. Most people do that. You go retire and you sit home and you don't know what to do. My mom is in this stage and she retired, and right now she's doing what she loves. She loves farming, and also she loves a lot of community work. So she has set aside her money to be able to help the elderly in her home place. And I feel I see she's very fulfilled. She has refired. I can see the vigor and the energy she has to be able to do that. And it has been a good, uh, it's been a good place to look at. To look up to them, to be able to also like work out my path as well as I get to this place. What do I want to achieve? Yeah. And lastly is this part. There's a 70 plus. Here's a time for care. And if you've grown up during my time, I mean, I'm a 90s baby and all that, and you realize like our parents used to take care of their parents. And it's because their parents didn't have the financial literacy to be able to set up for themselves. They used to, their fallback plan when they used to take care of their children is I take care of my children so that they take care of me. But that doesn't seem to be the case in our day-to-day age. Sometimes things don't work out the way they work out, and you find that in this place where you need care, and maybe your children will not be able to sustain or be able to take care of you because also they're like setting themselves, they're in different stages in this uh, life cycle. So by the time you get into this place, you'll be able to work out what have you set yourself up for. Like, what are you doing that when you're sitting down in your 70s and your 80s, you have no, finances for your day to day are not a challenge. And this is where now you have your goals and your passions. Like for this old man, my friend called Engineer Njoroge has his tea and his coffee. My mom has his agriculture, has her cows, has her farm, and she will sell her produce and will make her money, and she'll be satisfied at the same time. At the same time, she'll have money, and she will, not that we don't support her when we can, I mean, we always do, but she's in a place whereby, like, if we fall back, or we, like, for example, if you're struggling somewhere and we need help, she can be able to comfortably do that for us. I had a friend of mine who she used to tell us how her grandmother had set herself up in such a way that at times during Christmas she would call them and take them all for a holiday. I mean, imagine your grandmother in her 70s and 80s planning to take you on holiday. I mean, that was some level of financial planning that I want to have for myself. And so basically, having a look at this life cycle, I don't know what it does for you. I don't know where you're at, but I know it helps you to understand why financial planning is important and the benefits that it gives you. It gives you a leeway to know where you'll be. You do not know what will happen tomorrow, but it helps you to plan for that tomorrow. Whatever it is you want in your life, whatever goals you need, whatever goals you want to achieve, and basically it just gives you that. And the good thing is when you have this, it enables you to reevaluate your goals, reevaluate your values, and at the end of the day helps you to achieve the financial independence and freedom that you hope to achieve. So I hope this helps you and helps you to gives you a good idea of where you're at. And yeah, if you have any questions, please on the comment section, please don't hesitate to ask. We have financial advisor. I'm a financial advisor, and you can reach out. We can be able to just sit down and help you to map out a good financial plan for you, depending on wherever it is you are on this cycle. But other than that, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining me in this session, and we hope to see you next week. Have a lovely week ahead.